Purnat Purnamaduchyate Purnasya Purnamataya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Translation. Purnamada, that is complete, full. Purnamidam, this is complete, full. Purnat Purnamaduchyate, from that completeness or fullness came this completeness or fullness. Purnasya Purnamataya, although this completeness has come from that completeness. That completeness, Purnameva Vashish, always remains full. Doesn't become empty because this has come from there. Now this is also from the Upanishads, an ancient sloka from the Upanishad, which is always chanted before the Mandukya Upanishad. It starts by saying that Purnam, fullness, Ata, that is complete, which means the origin of this world, of everything here, not when you say this world, not just this tiny speck in the cosmos called the Earth, creation, the whole, the galaxy, everything. Can you imagine that? If you look at it, this Earth that we think is everything, and me, when I think I'm more than that, is a mere speck in this entire galaxy. Mere speck. There are so many stellar systems, so many planets, so many. It's very small, tiny. And yet, so compare that to us, human beings, in this little speck. How small can we be? And yet we think we are greater than the entire galaxy. Why do we think so? There must be some reason inside. Of course, the ego, of course, but apart from that, what gives the hint to the ego to think I am the greatest, biggest? Right? I am Muhammad Ali. Why? Because, we'll come. So, Purnamada, that is complete, would be translated as the origin of this, which is that is by its very nature fullness. Full. Complete. Doesn't require anything to complete. Always full. Now there is the next statement which we are not so sure of, because we say, okay, the origin, that from which the whole thing originated, may be complete. We don't know, perhaps. Okay, let it be. But the next statement is a little controversial. Purnamidam, this is also complete. But in our daily life, in our experiences, in everything, this is not complete. We are incomplete. The whole process of life, evolution, is to complete that which is incomplete. Not a single person generally, unless they have touched the completeness, who says I'm complete, I'm full. It's the vacuum that we are trying to fill. Right? I am this today, I'm happy for a short while. And then I find, no, this is inadequate. So I try to add more. And this process of filling goes on forever. Now, that can happen only because I think I'm not complete, I'm not full, which is true. In life, the whole of evolution is human beings' aspiration to fill the emptiness. I'm alone and I'm okay for some time, happy. I go around walking, I eat ice cream, I'm quite happy. I didn't say steak. And I'm quite happy. But then I feel this is inadequate. Maybe I should have somebody to share this. So one becomes two. I'm trying to fill my emptiness, loneliness with somebody else. And then we all know how it is filled. If it's permanently filled, we will not seek another, right? But no, after some time it is discarded, so we're looking for somebody else. So it is incomplete. It's not full, it's empty. Human being's attempt is to fill that emptiness. Even entertainment is to fill the emptiness. I feel I have some knowledge, but it is not adequate. So I feel more. I'm not saying anything is wrong. Facts. It's all fine because that's how the world operates. Simply proves that we are not full and therefore we are a little worried about this statement. Purnamidam. Purnamada, okay, we don't know, let it be. Purnamidam is not so. I'm apurna, not full. The whole process is I'm trying to become full. And most of us, in the end, die without fulfillment. Well, there may be rare individuals who are quite satisfied and full and go, but many are not. So what is it that prevents us from this? And this, what we think is, what the Upanishad says is full, in which we see is not full, comes from that fullness. So it has elements of fullness hidden in it. Because that fullness, which the Upanishad says is also here with us, if we understand certain conditions and how to break them, then that fullness remains always. Now there is no way we can describe this except in a small way with the great statement of the physicists like Einstein, who declared that matter can neither be created nor destroyed. Well, to put it better, energy can neither be created nor destroyed. The sum total is always the same. It undergoes manifestations, adaptations, but it is the same. Now, the Upanishad says, in our true essence, when we are free of all limitations, we have managed to figure out how to be free of all limitations, then we are full. Then we realize the statement, Purnam idam, this is full. And then that is understood, we also see that the other is also full. Otherwise, we have no idea about what that is and how full it is. This. So, which means the emptiness in our lives, everybody has some emptiness at some point or the other. It need not necessarily be money. It could be persons, it could be someone whom you wanted always but who's gone. It's that you aspired for something and it didn't happen. 101 things that keep us empty. In fact, it is a good thing in some way because the world won't move. We are all satisfied and still. Yeah, one person decides among a million to turn around and say, no, this is not a solution. Can I find a solution? Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamaduchyate Purnasya Purnamataya Purnameva Avashishyate, finally Purna. Now, this is the mantra chanted before the Mandukya Upanishad, I said. So further to this, to understand this, let us go into the Mandukya. The Mandukya, first of all the Upanishad, okay, before we touch Mandukya, because it's also been mentioned, this is exploring consciousness, somewhere Upanishad has been added. What is this Upanishad? Where did it come from? Very often we don't know who wrote it. We know that Veda Vyasa organized it, but we don't know who actually found it. Many rishis. They are the understanding that the ancient rishis developed through deep and intense reflection on themselves and the world. Perhaps it was something that was taught to them or which they understood when the mind became absolutely quiet and still. Therefore, even today, that teaching comes to us, is available when the mind is calm and quiet and still and is ready to say, I don't know, so let me figure out. It's very difficult to say, I don't know, mind you. Everybody knows. Now, the Upanishad. This is not technical. You don't have to remember what I'm going to say now, next, immediately. But since I'm talking about it, I would like to discuss it a bit. Nobody knows how old the Vedas are. They've been there around from a long time. The Vedas are called the Shruti. Shruti comes from Shrunute, Shrotra, that which is heard. So these are a certain eternal truths heard not through the ordinary ear, heard by the ancient rishis, are understood by the ancient rishis when their minds had become quiet and calm and meditative and totally at rest. And then they spoke about it. It was not written down for a long time, you know. They spoke and people learned. In the little forest academies, where there were just one or two students, very often one, and one teacher. No 100 students. Very intimate. Now, Vedavyasa gathered these things together and made 4 Vedas. Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharvana Veda. You will be surprised that the European world and the Indian intelligentsia that could read English, for the first time, most of them understood there are 4 Vedas because Max Muller translated the Vedas. We still have a Max Muller Bhavan in Delhi. Now, the 4 Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Sama, and Atharvana, 4 Vedas. The 4 Vedas also use a term called Vedanta. Vedanta. It's become a very popular word now, Vedanta. Vedantist, Vedanta Society, Vedanta. So Vedanta, the word means Veda Anta, which means end of the Vedas. End of the Vedas. Now, the end of the Vedas physically means that which comes at the end of each of these Vedas. Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharvana. It also means, according to the great Shankara, who commented on many Vedas, many Upanishads, Vedanta also means the end of, that means to come to a point where there is no need to learn anything more, where it is understood all. Everything is understood at once, not as a volume of literature, but as an actual experience, understood. Now, when you say Vedanta, this consists of the Upanishads. So each Veda has attached to it at the end a couple of Upanishads. And these Upanishads try to explain the essence of what the Vedas are talking about. There are 4 Mahavakyas in the Vedas, which means important sentences. One is, I am Atma Brahma, my Atman is Brahman. The other is Prajnanam Brahma, consciousness, illumined consciousness is Brahman. Let's look at Brahman afterwards. Then, Tattvamasi, you are not this what you think you are, but something else. And Aham Brahmasmi, I am not different from that Brahman. These are the four Mahavakyas. Now the word Brahman comes from the Sanskrit root Brah, which means Bru, which means to ever expand. There is no ending to it. So the Upanishads therefore form the end of the Vedic teachings, and they explain the Mahavakyas that the Vedas have uttered. This is the Upanishad. Each Veda has some Upanishads attached to it. Now, the word Upanishad comes from three syllables. Upa, Ni, and Shad. Now, Upa means to be close. Close, C-L-O-S-E, not close. To move closer, to go closer, to go near. This is the word Upa. It means many things, but the practical thing was it was taught by the teacher when the students sat close together in a small group or even single. And it was also called Rahasya, which means a secret, because it was not broadcasted. There were no loudspeakers. There was no need for a speaker or a microphone. It was one-to-one. This is the teaching of the Upanishad, the one-to-one teachings in the deep forest academies where the rishis sat and the students sat and learned. Upa, sit close. Yeah, not just physically close, minds being close to each other. This is important to note, because some of the things that the Upanishads say are not literary, but things which are understood when the student's mind and the teacher's mind are almost in the same frequency, close to each other. Then it's more an understanding rather than a verbal solution. So, Upa. Then the last syllable is Shad. Yeah, there is a middle syllable, Ni. The last syllable is Shad. Now, Shad literally means sit down. Because people who want to think, want to go deep, they sit down, right? We're all sitting. If somebody stands up, I know that you're distracted. Right? Sit down. So, Shad means sit. According to a great commentator like Adi Shankara, Shad also means to churn. You know what churning? I don't know how to explain. In the villages, people used to churn the whey, the milk or whatever, curds, to make butter. Churning. Huh? Churning? You know what is churning. Yeah, traditionally they used to have a stick like this with something at the bottom and with a rope. Churn. So this churning. So according to Shankara, Shad, the other meaning of Shad is to churn. Now, churning means to churn up the way you think here in this context. Not in the linear way that you follow, but to look at it in a completely upside down fashion. Churning of the mind to understand that there is a way of going about it which does not follow the usual patterns of thinking. I think the nearest you can go to understanding this are the teachings of the Dzogchen masters in the Tibetan system. The Dzogchen masters who learnt from Padmasambhava belong to the old yellow hat sect. The Dzogchen masters have very peculiar ways, which of course was taken into Zen after a while, where the actual process of learning is not through linear understanding, but through churning, putting your thought process upside down. Because these are things which can't be understood by thought as we know it. For instance, here is a Dzogchen story. There was a disciple of a Dzogchen master who was with him for 13 years. He learned many things, he was taught, but nothing was happening to him because according to Dzogchen, suddenly it happens. Nothing was suddenly happening to him. So one day they were going on a walk and he started complaining to the teacher, "What is this, sir? 13 years I've been with you. Nothing seems to have happened to me. There's no churning here. Can you help me?" Master didn't say a word. It's not good to talk too much to a Zen master or to a Dzogchen master. You might be kicked on your butt. So, they're gentle souls, but they can be quite eccentric in their behavior. So, he kept quiet and walked on. Then they stopped and he said, "Do you see the hill up there?" He said, "Yes, master." Okay. The master was on the horse and this guy was walking. He took out a huge cloth sack, you know the sack, S-A-C-K, sack, and gave it to him. "Do you see the sack?" "Yes, sir." "Do you see all those broken brick bats lying there?" "Yes." "Fill this bag with all the brick bats." He said, "Now this is punishment because I was asking him for something serious." Then the experience of Dzogchen and you fill up the brick bats in your bag seemed very, down, below his dignity. Okay. Anyway, he said, "Master says so." He filled it up fully. It became big. Then he said, "Now tie it up." Tried it. And he said, "Put it on your back." He said, "Master, put it on your back." "See the hill there?" "Yes, sir." "Climb up the hill till you go to the summit of the hill, where there's just one tree standing up there. Go." We went with great difficulty, panting, with the thing up there, reached the tree. He was in a position where he said, "If I don't drop this, I'm going to die." It was so heavy and so difficult. And the master reached there before, horse. And then he said, "Throw it down." Throw it down. Master didn't say any word. He said, "Just throw it down." And then he went and sat under the tree, took a deep breath. The burden is finished. "Yes," he said, "I know." "I know what you mean." Basically, Upanishad churning means to churn and find out the dead weight that we carry all our life on our backs, on our mental backs. Not able to dump it. The moment you dump, there is no other technique, it's all over. This is churning. But when you churn sometimes, we have a story of the churning of the ocean of milk in the Puranas, where the ocean of milk was churned by the Devas and the Asuras. The Devas are supposed to be good guys and the Asuras are bad guys, but there have been good Asuras and bad Devas also. The watertight division between God and Satan did not exist in ancient times in the scriptures, in the Hindu scriptures. Some asuras were supposed to be bad guys, were good guys. And some devas who were supposed to be good guys were bad guys. Indra, the king of the devas, always did funny things. Stole horses and most of the time was drunk. Now, and spend his time in his Indra Loka after having a nice drink, watching Menaka dancing and so on. This was Indra. But they are the good ones. Now the asuras were always going about challenging God and things like that. And if you look at have you ever seen a picture of the churning of the ocean? Not or a sculpture? Anybody? Here? If you go to the airport in Thailand, to Bangkok, inside the airport you will see the Samudra Manthan, churning of the ocean. There's a churning rod and there's a serpent around it, used as a rope. And one side are the devas and the other are the asuras. You'll be surprised if you look closely. All the devas are clean shaven and all the asuras. Anyway, so when this happened, when the churning happened, according to the Puranas, the first thing that came out was poison. Finally, at the end came the nectar of immortality, Amrit. First poison came out. So therefore, in this churning, when you churn, first you see yourself as you are, which is the poison that's coming out. Because till then, we said, we're not like that. We are good. We are like, the whole thing comes out and you're face to face with what you actually are. Not you, me, everybody. That's the time when we need to deal with it and get rid of it. Then comes the Amrit. Amrit is not a nectar which is drunk by manufacturing. You know, in temples they may give you Amrita, means some milk and honey and bananas are all made. Amrit, the word in Sanskrit means deathlessness, amrita, no death. Do you have a backache? Then allowed. Also, it's easy to project this. So, where did I stop? I was going in the astral body. Amrita. So Shankara says the word shad also means churning. And also understanding that our way of thinking, which is inductive, may not be what we are looking at. Maybe other ways of doing it. We discussed that in the morning. Something is everywhere, you can't go there. Okay. So this is the open. You know, there is this other syllable ni in the middle, which connects the upa and the shad, the ni. The ni represents the position of the listener and the teacher. The Hindi word niche, sitting down, comes from ni, niche, ni, which means the student is sitting below the teacher. No, not physically, because now we are sitting physically niche. But it means that the student who learns, who's trying or attempting to understand this truth, is sitting with the awareness first that he or she doesn't know. Because if one sits with the attitude that one knows, then nothing gets in. We already carried the images of all that we know. Or one is comparing. Somebody said like this guy said that, this guy is saying like this. There is no attention. It's a comparison. When you compare, there is no attention. One pointed attention is missing when you compare. So, to sit with a complete attention is represented by the word ni. Also, that the mind has to be empty to understand. A mind which is already full of ideas has no space to understand. It's already filled. It's like an empty vessel. You need to pour anything into a vessel, it has to be empty first. And even physically, it has to be down. You can't pour something up. So, it's down. And then if it is full, nothing is going to go in. It's all going to overflow. Apparently, a very learned professor, I have nothing against professors, a very learned professor went to meet a Zen master. Zen master. And he told the Zen master, Master, please teach me how to attain satori. Satori is the word used for moksha, illumination in Zen. Teach me how to attain satori. Teach me how to reach a complete freedom of mind. Master said, sit down. I'll make you a cup of tea. He went inside and made a cup of tea, a kettle of tea, and brought the teapot, put the table in the middle of put the cup in the middle of the table. You know, the Japanese, everything they do, there's a certain art form out there. So he had a table and a nice tablecloth. In the middle was a beautiful cup, and then he poured. As he poured, and the professor was watching him carefully, and then the cup was full, and he continued to pour, and the tea started dripping down from the cup into the tablecloth. So the professor said, Sir, it's overflowing. And the master turned to the professor and said, So, your cup is overflowing. How can I give you Zen? If I put it in, that will also flow out. So space is important. Clearing is important. This is the meaning of ni. So, when a person sits close or wants to go close to the truth, because when he is already there, there is no he or she. Close as possible. And who is in attitude of receiving and is empty, clear, then the truth is understood. So this is the Upanishad. All Upanishads. Now there are over 100 Upanishads. There are major Upanishads, minor Upanishads, principal Upanishads, 11 in number, and there are 20 Yoga Upanishads. They are the earliest writing on the practice of yoga and the theory and practice of yoga. Anything that you find in later literature in yoga is already mentioned in the Yoga Upanishads, even in Patanjali. So anyway, but that's not important for us. There are the 11 principal Upanishads. Now, they are called principal Upanishads because they are the earliest. And they have been commented upon by all the great teachers, Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhu, everybody. So, this Mandukya belongs to the principal Upanishads. The uniqueness about this Upanishad is that it has only 12 slokas. Only 12 slokas. And in those 12 slokas, everything that one would want to, theoretically at least, understand about the Brahman is there. The Mandukya Upanishad does not teach what to do or what not to do or anything of that kind, which is left, of course, to the Yoga Upanishads. But it just discusses something which is basic and relevant to all humanity, which is the three states of consciousness known to human beings, plus the fourth, which is generally not so known. This is the subject matter of the Mandukya. Now, as you said today, it's very funny because the meaning of the word Mandukya in Sanskrit is a frog. Frog. So I've asked many people, why is it called a frog Upanishad? Because it's so profound. In 12 slokas, it sums up what consciousness is and connects it to the sound of Om. I didn't get convincing answers. Somebody said maybe there was a rishi called Frog Rishi, which I don't take. So finally, I asked my master, Maheswarnath Babaji, this man. He said, very nicely, he said, this is what they say. He always said that. This is what they said, the ancients said. He never said, I am saying it. He was only reflecting the Upanishad, where the rishis declare, Iti Sushruma Purvesham, this is what the ancients said. There is no byline. So he said, there are two things it could be. One is that the toad, the frog is quite not such a polished figure to look at. Face especially, right? I don't know, some people love toads, but generally. And he said, therefore, that since the Upanishad is wisdom, it doesn't matter where it comes from. Even a toad could tell you the wisdom, give you the wisdom. It's not where it comes from, but what the substance of it is. I really would doubt if I looked like a frog, anybody would listen to it. I don't know. So anyway, you might wake up with dreams of the toad sitting. So that was one reason. The other reason which he gave was that the frog is a creature which undergoes a very visible metamorphosis in its life. First, it's a tadpole with a little tail running around in the water. And then after a while, it drops his tail and becomes a frog. Now it can sit on the land and also in the water. So he said this is the indication of a person who has touched the truth. He can live in water and also in the land, which means he's established in the consciousness, full, all-pervading, at the same time, like an amphibian. He can function also on this earth. This is the only explanation I got for the Mandukya Upanishad. Anyway, let's look into the Mandukya. I think most of you must be knowing that most mantras you have Om, the pranava. Om, everybody chants Om. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Hrim Namah Shivaya, Om. It's called a pranava because it's a sound that is put in the front of a mantra which gives life to the mantra. Now please do not look at Om in any narrow way, denominational way. Consider it as pure sound. Om as a pure sound that's present in nature in some form or the other. Now, this Om, which in the Kathopanishad, the king of death, teaching the young boy Nachiketas, tells him, is the bridge or the link between this world and the other. between the material world and that which lies beyond, the sound. Okay. And I think many people are familiar with the explanation of the word Om, general explanation, which is that it consists of three syllables, a, u, and ma. Ma as as in a, u, becomes om. The traditional explanation is that a stands for the beginning of everything, beginning of creation, beginning of sound. Even a dumb person can utter a. A baby can also say a. A is basic. The beginning of all alphabets is a. The alpha and the omega. A. First sound is a. And in Sanskrit, the term used for alphabet is akshara, indestructible, of which a is the first letter, first sound. Actually, we use a very commonly, even if you're not aware of it. Even when one has pain, when belong to any country, any language, the usual expression is ah. And when you're surprised by something, also ah. Nobody says boo, ah, unless it's a ghost. Ah. So this the beginning of sound, is represented by the of O. So it is loaded with a meaning. It's the beginning of everything. When you start singing, I don't know in the West, but there, I always start with ah. So then there comes the U. And U is the connecting link, that which is once manifested. And therefore, is called the sound symbolic of Creator Brahma. Because in ancient Indian scriptures, everything is given a form and a shape, but it's a manifestation. But Sankhya, which is one of the oldest philosophies that we have in India, says that creation is not somebody sitting in a workshop making people, throwing them down, giving them ice cream, then kicking them in the butt. No. It's a natural evolution, chemical evolution coming from a source. It's a manifestation. It's not a creation. Now that manifestation, the capacity of manifesting is called Brahma, the creator, in picturesque form, of course. Then what has been manifested has to be sustained for some time. That sustenance is the sound of U. Therefore, the deity Vishnu is considered to be the sustainer. The last sound of Vishnu is U, the sustainer. Now the last sound, Om, Ma, but which you can utter only with your mouth closed. Om, which means any new sound, you need to open your mouth again. For the time being, it's finished. One cycle of creation is over. It's been manifested, protected for some time, then it is finished. For a new cycle, again it has to start again. This is how the ancient Puranas represent even the creation of the worlds, not one world, worlds. It comes into being, manifests, stays for some time, and then is again absorbed into that. From where it came from, it's finished. So the last sound is Ma, Om. So this is represented or symbolized by Mahadeva, Shiva, who is supposed to be the one. But I say that this is not distraction, but a regeneration. Because if the old is not destroyed, where will the new thing come? There won't even be space. Imagine today all the people who started in the beginning of this Manvantara are all living. Already we have a population problem, in India at least. And ideas, if you keep at old ideas all the time, there's no space for the new. So this movement is necessary movement. The dry leaves have to fly off in the wind and the new leaves come. That is the Om. Now this is the normal explanation that we have on Om. But the Mandukya Upanishad looks at it in a different way. The Mandukya, which is also one of the most ancient principal Upanishads, says that the sound represents the waking state of consciousness, which is a common experience of all human beings. I hope you are awake, or too boring. The waking state of consciousness, which is common to all human beings, is represented by the sound ah. From deep sleep, as you stir and open, is the first step. And this waking state is common to all human beings, no matter who they are. Right? Now the question is whether what we call waking state is truly known to us, that we don't know, but as we know it, let's say. There's a challenge there because what we think is a waking state may not be truly waking. Anyway, let's not go into this. A waking state, common to all human beings. What is this waking state we are talking about? It's very simple. As you and I are sitting here, we are awake to everything. But the great yogis said that while we call it the waking state, actually we are not awake to everything. Some things are sleeping, some are awake, but even that much is awake. Now, how real is the waking state? We will not go into it now. But it is common. Everybody knows that it is the waking state. We wake up, okay, fine. Now, the U, the second sound, represents the dream state. Now, the dream state is also common to all of us. What time does the first session start?
4:15.
So, we can deal with the dream and so on. So, if you don't mind, I'm going to rest my foot here. No disrespect, the license for old age, okay? So, the U represents the dream state. Now, this dream state is a fascinating state which needs a little more closer examination. Nothing mysterious, but closer examination. In fact, the truth is never mysterious. If somebody says there is a great mystery, come into the dark room, I'll give you the truth, run away for your lives. Truth is like the sun, it's for everybody. There is nothing secret about it. Okay? I didn't say this, Swami Vivekananda. Anyway, so, dream state. Now this dream, it's very interesting, just watch carefully. When you dream, as you're dreaming, in most cases, there may be some exceptions here and there. Generally, when you're dreaming, you will refuse to believe that it's a dream. How can you? Because you're already dreaming. The dream state in the Upanishad is called Tejasa, which means that which is also called Swapna, but Tejasa meaning that which is by its very nature illumined. Because when you sleep, your eyes are shut, everything is dark. But you see the whole dream as if there is light. Right? So Tejas. So look at this thing called the dream state. Very interesting. Talking about night dreaming, not daydreaming. I'm sleeping. Physically, yes. But I'm very awake. In fact, the scientists call it REM, rapid eye movement sleep, which means the drama is still going on and your eyes are moving inside, watching everything. Huh? You're being chased by I don't know what wild animal here. So let's say somehow a Bengal tiger has come here. And you're being chased by a tiger. And you're running for your life. Dream. Are we saying now this is a dream? It's a dream? No. And then, some reason you wake up from the dream. Okay? When you wake up from the dream, now look at this. In the dream, all your five senses are working. You can almost smell the tiger. You can see the tiger. You can hear it. Of course, you don't want to feel it because there's a tiger. And then you wake up. Now when you wake up, there is no tiger. But if you look at the parameters of your body, physical parameters, your pulse is racing, your heart is thumping more than our, you're sweating. It's as if there was a tiger, but there was no tiger. It's so real at that point, but now it's gone. This is the U. How the Upanishads, the sages, the rishis said that if in a dream, if I come to you in a dream, for instance, not the several emails that I get, I deny it, but suppose I come to you in a dream and tell you, oh, hello, how are you? This is a dream, oh, shut up, sir, it can't be a dream. I'm so happy. But it is. Then I wake up and it is not there. How real is this? Now, the question that the rishis asked was, now listen very carefully. In the dream, you never agreed that it is a dream. It's only when you wake up. How does one know that this is not a dream? You will not agree because you are in the dream. Maybe there is a state where you wake up from this dream also. And then you will say, oh my God, what a long dream. But the essential thing is the one who is watching both, the waking state as well as the dream state. Believe me, there is no much difference between the dream and the waking state except one. And that makes the difference. That's why we like this more than that. You know what? Continuity. Today M dreams that he is Musk, oh God help. No. Today M dreams that he is somebody, I don't know, whatever. But when he wakes up, he's still M. Next day M dreams that he is somebody else or something else is happening to him. And when he wakes up, he's still the same M. One day M dreams that he is in a new house, a great palace of his. When he wakes up, he's still in his old house. So the difference basically is the continuity. Otherwise it's dangerous, right? Also, in day-to-day life, I dream that I have a heavenly damsel who is my lover. I wake up, there is no heavenly damsel. That continuity is there. Apart from that, really there is no difference. Check carefully. And according to the rishis, there is a state when you wake up from this where only the witness remains. The one who was there in waking, the one who was there in deep sleep, the one who was there when you're dreaming, there is one entity, right? Okay. Now the third state, again very interesting, deep sleep. Om represents deep sleep. Deep sleep, the word used in the Upanishad is Shushupti, which means deep sleep. What happens in Shushupti? There is no external awareness. There is no internal awareness. There's nothing. Everybody wants to sleep, but at some point or the other, the maximum medicines people use today is to get sleep. They can't sleep. You have to pop a pill. I mean, there's the other one, to keep yourself young forever. But anyway. So, this deep sleep is interesting because there is no external consciousness, there is no internal consciousness. But there seems to be a rejuvenation when you wake up from deep sleep because you're at complete rest. One of the reasons is in deep sleep, we don't know who we really are, and therefore all the ego problems attached with this have ended. So when we wake up, we are relaxed, right? You know how it is. I'm so and so, then I walked into a marriage and nobody recognized me. Big worry. In fact, one should say, very good, thanks, I can eat food and quietly disappear from the back door. But no, they didn't look. Ego problems. But in deep sleep, nothing. Everything is over. And in deep sleep, all are equal. The boss and the worker both sleep. Sometimes I feel the worker sleeps better than the boss because he's worked hard and is tired and he goes to sleep. It's common. However, even though you're not conscious at that moment, it looks like there's somebody enjoying the deep sleep. How do you know? Because when I wake up, I say to myself, oh my God, what a wonderful sleep, blissful. I was not aware at that point, but I get aware when I'm waking up. There's a memory of it being blissful. If there is a memory, there is somebody enjoying it. Even though there is no outward recognition or inward recognition. There is somebody. Well, how many times have we switched off our alarms in the phone and gone back to sleep? Why? Because it's so blissful. Why should we get up? It's so nice. So in the point when you're about to sleep and the point when you're just waking up from sleep, little bit of that blissfulness is felt. So I want to go back to it again and again. But at that moment, one is not aware of it. Now says the Mandukya Upanishad, for some reason, which we will discuss, if during deep sleep one is aware of that state, not unaware, but aware of that state, that is called the Turiya. Turiya means the original state of the living self, not connected, not in touch with anything, but is all pervading and is a common factor in all the states, waking, dream, and deep sleep. Which part of Om represents that? The last part of the unuttered Om. So what is the unuttered Om? If I say Om, I don't say Om, stop it. Om, see that? Like a bell ringing going on. When a bell rings, after some time, we stop hearing it, right? That's not because the sound has gone anywhere. The frequency that we have in our ear built is not able to hear that which is beyond. Any noise made is always there. It's not gone. But I can't feel it because my ear is not adapted to that frequency. So that the unstuck, the last sound like a bell ringing and then you stopped ringing but it's going on. This is represented as Turiya, the eternal blissful witness of all the drama that goes on, which is there in deep sleep, dream, waking, but not identified with anything, enjoying happily. Blissful. This is the explanation of Om given in the Mandukya Upanishad. Now the question is, why is it that everybody in deep sleep does not experience Turiya? Sleep is good, okay? Deep sleep is necessary. Why is it that one does not experience Turiya? Because the mind is agitated. Because the mind is always caught up in what is fulfilled, what is not what is unfulfilled, what is fulfilled, what am I missing, what am I to acquire, and so on, this mind. Therefore, in deep sleep it is silent, but it does not experience Turiya. If a person knows how to still his mind or her mind, when I say still, I mean find a quietness where there is no interference, no distraction, a fresh mind which is not carrying too much of a load of memories. In such a mind, when it goes to sleep, from Shushupti, it naturally goes on to Turiya. And once Turiya is done, then it is there forever. It's there during waking, in the dream, and also in deep sleep. Unfortunately, there is no direct way of reaching Turiya through deep sleep. That would have been nice. I mean, we have to do nothing. Right? So this is the discussion of the Mandukya Upanishad. I'm saying this because we are exploring consciousness. Right? So what does the Upanishad say about consciousness? Morning we had a general discussion, of course. We end this session now. And we come back in 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
About 20 minutes.
20 minutes? I've become a workaholic, I think. Anyway, okay, good, thank you. 20 minutes.